Here we are in the Week 2 Assignments module, and this assignment is due Sunday, September 1st. This week in the textbook, Graphic Design: A New History, you'll be reading Chapter 1, The 19th Century, An Expanding Field. And this chapter is all about the Industrial Revolution, which began in Europe in the 18th century and continued on to expand during the 19th century. And this was a very important turning point in the history of graphic design because there were so many new products and services that science and technology were applied to the graphic arts. And most importantly, the rise of these new products and services created a new industry, advertising. And people soon learned that you could combine words and images in a way which could more effectively advertise products, services, and events. And so that's really when the rise of what we know as graphic design came about. And you can see some examples here of various types of Victorian graphic design, which are interesting and innovative. They may seem old-fashioned, but they were very cutting edge at the time these things were designed. You may want to have a look at some of the lectures this week. Textile Designs by William Morris. Morris was a pivotal figure in the history of design. He designed books and typefaces. He was also an architect, and he also designed textiles, many of which are still used in home interiors today. Have a look at the Lydia Pinkham advertisements. Lydia was a wife and a mother who started out making home remedies in her kitchen and became a national celebrity. And Pinkham's advertisements were more than just simply persuading women to buy the product. They really carried embedded messages about the world that they lived in. Also, have a look at this lecture on the principles of graphic design. Again, these are the basis of our principles of design today. This week, you'll work on your first bibliography and design and context assignment. You're going to select a work of graphic design, such as a poster, a magazine cover, a logo, an advertisement, a package. You're going to select this example from the time period covered in this week's reading, which is all about the 19th century, primarily Victorian graphic design and the arts and crafts movement. So be sure that it is limited to this week's reading. Now, it can't be illustrated in the textbook. It could be by another designer. The same designer talked about in the textbook, but just a different example that is not illustrated in the textbook. You're going to research the work of graphic design, and you're going to examine the intent of the work. You're also going to work on understanding the example within the context of its time. And then you're going to respond to your colleagues and participate in an ongoing discussion. So the first thing you're going to do for your example of graphic design is compile a bibliography, a list of books, journal articles, and other things. You must include at least one book, one scholarly journal article, and one web link. And the bibliography must be in the Chicago citation style. If you don't understand that style, click that link and that will give you some examples and a video. Also, refer to the Research Tools page here in Canvas. I've given you some examples of various research tools that you can use to compile your bibliography. And these are some examples of various resources in the Chicago Manual of Style citation. You may use EasyBib to format your bibliography. It's a very easy program to use, or you can use Zotero here. So that's the first thing. You're going to compile a bibliography. Then you're going to write a creative brief. And there are some examples of questions to use as guidelines. and you're only going to write a few paragraphs about your topic. And be sure when you select your example of graphic design that it is graphic design, which is the combination of words and images to convey a message, and not a work of art for your example. Now, the textbook frequently includes examples of art movements which have an influence on graphic design to give you a background about the context in which the design work was created. You're going to identify the example. This week you may not have a designer's name, you may just have a publisher. You're going to provide a brief biographical background of the designer or the printing house that printed up your example. You're going to describe the message of the piece and how it is conveyed. And then you're going to describe the stylistic characteristics of your example that are similar to other examples. You're going to find similarities in your example to other design examples from this time period. You may want to include some stylistic influences in your example of graphic design. And then you're going to talk about some context. You're going to find at least 2 historical connections to your graphic design example. And by historical connections, they could be just about anything. And here's a list here. They could be social, political, economic, just something else that was going on during the time that your graphic design example was produced. What was happening in politics in England, for example, or France, if that's where your example is from. What pieces of popular music were popular during the time your example was produced, or maybe some scientific discoveries. So that's what I mean about historical context, to see other things that were happening at that same time. And then you're going to post your image and create a brief to the discussion board. There are some various examples of how you can do that. And your assignment doesn't need to be more than 1 page long, just something brief, but include as many of the guidelines as you can. And then you're going to respond to at least 2 of your colleagues' posts with either 1 additional historical event related to the design example or 1 additional image by the same designer. And this assignment is worth 25 points. To turn in your assignment, just click this link up here. That will take you into the area where you're going to post it. It's actually in the discussion board. Now you might want to have a look at the rubric for grading this assignment. If you complete all of the assignment requirements, you will of course get full credit. If you do not complete all of the requirements, you'll have points deducted, but if you exceed the assignment requirements, you'll get extra credit. So that's this week's bibliography in Design and Context assignment. This week you will also begin working on your museum exhibition project, the conceptual phase, which is not due until September 15th. So you have plenty of time to come up with an idea about your project. So what you're going to be doing is creating a museum exhibition on a specific topic of graphic design, which means that you'll need to look through the textbook in advance and find a topic or a graphic designer that interests you. You don't really need to know about the format just yet, but it can be in pretty much any format. That's not really a concern right now. That's going to be something you'll be working on later. So read a little bit about what an exhibition does. It researches and communicates and exhibits things and ideas for the purpose of education, study, and enjoyment. So you're just going to come up with your exhibition topic and overview. So you're just going to have a big idea about what the exhibition is about. And you need understanding of what the exhibition is about. Your exhibition Concept should be no more than 1 page long and include some of these considerations. I've included some examples of museum exhibition overviews from various art and design museums. Here's one from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. This was on Valentine de Boulogne. Here is their exhibition overview for this show, and you can see it's only 3 paragraphs, but it clearly describes what the exhibition is about and its goals. Here's another exhibition overview from the Museum of Arts and Design. It's about women in art, craft, and design from the mid-century to today. Now this overview is quite a bit longer, you can see, although it does include information that isn't necessarily going to be in your exhibition overview, but I wanted you to see a variety of exhibition overviews and how they are written. So be sure to have a look at all of these. Here's one on the London Transport Museum. We'll be learning about that in the coming weeks. And again, the overview is not particularly long, but it does clearly describe what the exhibition is and its goals. So be sure to have a look at all of those examples of museum exhibition overviews. This is your big idea, your concept for your project. And then again, I've included a bibliography of links to various topics that are covered in this week's reading if you want some more information. So again, you're going to begin working on your museum exhibition concept, which is not due until September 15th. And you're going to work on your first bibliography and context and design and context assignment, which is due this Sunday, September 1st. So there's an overview of your assignment this week. If you have any questions or problems, be sure to email me. Otherwise, have fun.